30 years ago, world leaders dared to imagine a gender-equal world.
Women's rights are human rights once and for all.
They pledged a better future for all women and girls. Freedom from poverty. Zero violence. Full and equal decision-making power. Equal opportunities and equal pay. It's up to us to make that vision a reality. We are the first generation who can. No matter the stakes, no time to wait, no steps back. 2025 is our year. Rights, equality, empowerment for all women and girls.
Excellencies, distinguished guests and partners, welcome to UN Women's International Women's Day celebration for 2025. My name is Ajong Lee. I'm the External Relations Team Leader here at UN Women's Center, Knowledge and Partnership Center in the Republic of Korea. It's my privilege and honor to serve you as the Master of Ceremony again this year following last year's celebration. I know many of you are joining us for the second or even the third time, and I'm very, very happy that this is becoming an annual occasion whereby we come together and we celebrate the lives and contributions of women and girls in our lives and around the world. Now, we'll be providing simultaneous interpretation services throughout the event. Korean is channel 1 and English is channel 2. So please kindly use the device that are provided on the table. And if you do not have the device, you can raise your hands and one of us will be happy to serve you. Even if you do understand English or Korean, we would like to encourage you to please use the device because our true interpreters have been studying very hard and preparing for this event. So before we begin, how about we give a big round of applause for our interpreters? 안녕하십니까. 세계 여성의 날 행사에 오신 것을 환영합니다. 저는 UN 여성기구 지식파트너십센터의 이하정 팀장입니다. 오늘은 30여 명이 넘는 대사님들과 외교관들께서 많이 참석하신 관계로 부득이하게 제가 영어로 행사를 진행하는 점을 양해 부탁드리겠습니다. 저희 통역기를 착용해 주시고요. 한국어는 1번, 영어는 2번입니다. So now we'll start this event. But we cannot do this without first saying Happy International Women's Day, right? You know the tradition already, ambassadors. You've been here before. So let's say Happy International Women's Day in recognition of wonderful women and girls in our lives. And to our women participants, this is for us, for your life, for your contributions, and for your service. So can we please look around and say Happy International Women's Day to each other. Women's Day. Now we'll begin by playing 2 official video messages sent from New York on the occasion of the International Women's Day. First by UN Women Executive Director Sima Baus, and then Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations.
On International Women's Day, we celebrate the power, resilience, and leadership of women and girls. We take stock of where we stand, and we recommit to accelerate gender equality for all women and girls. In 1995, the world promised an equal world for all women and girls in the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action, a groundbreaking framework for gender equality. 30 years later, our world today is more equal than ever before. More women are in positions of power. Women are reshaping the world of work, and we have stronger laws to protect women from domestic violence. But women's and girls' rights are facing unprecedented threats worldwide, from higher levels of discrimination, weaker legal protections, and less funding for programs and bodies that support women. A girl born today will never see the end of extreme poverty because it remains 137 years away. Every day, more than 140 women and girls are killed by members of their own family, and the world registered a disturbing 50% increase in the number of women and girls living in conflict. This is simply unacceptable. Today, on International Women's Day and every day, we must march forward for women's rights. We cannot be paralyzed by setbacks. We must push forward with resolve, building on the progress we've made together. I count on all of you. Happy International Women's Day.
When the doors of equal opportunity are open for women and girls, everyone wins. Equal societies are more prosperous and peaceful and the foundation of sustainable development. On this International Women's Day, we recognize 30 years of progress and achievement since the landmark United Nations Conference in Beijing. This transformed the rights of women and reaffirmed those rights as human rights. Since then, women and girls have shattered barriers, defied stereotypes, and demanded their rightful place. But we must be clear-eyed about the challenge. From pushback to rollback, women's human rights are under attack. Age-old horrors, violence, discrimination, and economic inequality still plague societies. And newest threats, such as biased algorithms and programming inequalities into online spaces, opening up new arenas of harassment and abuse. Instead of mainstreaming equal rights, we are seeing the mainstreaming of misogyny. We must fight these outrages and keep working to level the playing field for women and girls. We need action to unlock finance so countries can invest in equality and to prioritize those investments. Action to open up equal opportunities for decent work, close the gender pay gap, and tackle challenges around care work. Action to strengthen and implement laws to end all forms of violence against women and girls. Action to secure women's full participation in decision-making, including in peace building. And action to remove the obstacles to women and girls in the fields of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. The United Nations Pact for the Future and the Global Digital Compact offer blueprints to guide these actions. When women and girls can rise, we all thrive. Together, let's stand firm in making rights, equality, and empowerment a reality for all women and girls, for everyone, everywhere.
Now, just a little explanation about the host and the organizer of today's event. Our center, formerly the UN Women's Center of Excellence for Gender Equality, was established in 2022 in partnership with the Ministry of Gender Equality and Family in the Republic of Korea. The center was founded with a shared mandate to advance gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls across Asia and the Pacific. Located in Seoul, our center contributes to capacity development, strategic partnerships, and knowledge exchange on promising practices and lessons learned. In early 2025, the center was rebranded with a new name to emphasize its key functions in facilitating partnership development and knowledge exchange. So we would like to take this opportunity to thank the generous support from the Ministry of Gender Equality and Family that has made this event possible. Now, in that context, I'd like to invite His Excellency Kim Ki-nam, Assistant Minister of Gender Equality and Family, Republic of Korea, for his congratulatory speech.
만나뵙게 돼서 반갑습니다. 대한민국 여성가족부의 기획조정실장 김기남이라고 합니다. 2025년도 세계 여성의 날을 맞아서 개최되는 UN 여성기구의 기념행사에 오늘 함께하게 된 것을 기쁘게 생각합니다. 모든 여성을 위한 권리, 평등, 역량 강화를 주제로 하는 오늘 행사가 아시아 태평양 지역 여성의 권익과 성평등에 대한 인식 그리고 노력을 더욱 확산하고 강화하는 계기가 되기를 기원합니다. 오늘 행사를 준비해 주신 유엔 여성기구 관계자 여러분의 노고에 깊이 감사드립니다. 또한 바쁘신 중에도 참석하여 자리를 빛내주신 반기문 전 유엔 사무총장님과 주제 발표를 맡아주시는 앨리슨 미리엄 더비디언 유엔 여성기구 아프가니스탄 특별대표를 비롯한 연사님들 그리고 각국 대사님 등 내외빈 여러분께 깊은 감사의 말씀을 드립니다. 1908년 미국 여성 노동자들이 외쳤던 빵과 장미의 의미를 다시 되새기며 여성가족부는 올 한 해도 함께 일하고 함께 돌보는 사회 그리고 모두가 안전한 일상을 누릴 수 있는 양성평등 사회 실현을 위해서 모든 역량을 집중해 나가겠습니다. 지금 한국을 비롯한 많은 국가들이 급속한 디지털 기술과 산업 발전 과정에서 대두되는 신종 폭력에 대한 대응 그리고 여성의 경제활동 참여 확대 저출생 고령화 위기와 같은 다양하고 복합적인 과제들에 직면해 있습니다. 먼저 우리 정부는 여성폭력의 예방과 피해자의 일상 회복을 지원하고 관련 제도 및 시스템 정비를 위한 노력을 더욱 강화하고 있습니다. 특히 디지털 성범죄물의 탐지와 삭제 시스템을 고도화하고 중앙과 지역의 디지털 성범죄 피해자 지원센터를 중심으로 종합적인 피해자 지원 체계를 구축하는 등 디지털 성범죄 예방과 피해자 보호를 위해서 적극 대응하겠습니다. 또한 일하고 싶은 여성들이 안정적으로 일자리를 가질 수 있도록 전국 159개소의 여성 새로 일하기 센터를 통해서 상담, 직업훈련, 인턴 기회 제공 및 취업 알선 그리고 창업 컨설팅에 이르기까지 여성의 경제활동을 촉진하고 있습니다. 청년부터 중고령까지 생애 주기별로 여성의 경제활동 지원 정책을 담은 여성 경제활동 촉진과 경력 단절 예방을 위한 기본계획도 조만간 발표할 예정입니다. 또한 성평등 문제와 뗄 수 없는 관계인 우리 사회의 저출생 위기 극복을 위해서 돌봄 서비스를 확대하고 일가정 양립을 위한 지원을 한층 강화하는 한편 가족 친화 기업 인증 제도 등 기업의 가족 친화 문화 확산에도 더욱 노력하겠습니다. 대한민국 정부는 여성의 권익과 평등, 역량 강화를 위해서 유엔 여성기구를 비롯한 국제사회와도 연대와 협력을 더욱 강화해 가겠습니다. 특히 올해는 북경행동강령 채택 30주년이 되는 해입니다. 북경행동강령은 전 세계 여성의 권리 신장을 위한 중요한 이정표가 되어왔고 지난 30년간 성평등을 위해서 이룬 성과를 되돌아보고 앞으로 나아갈 방향을 모색하는 소중한 기회가 될 것입니다. 또한 오는 8월에는 한국에서 에이펙 여성경제회의가 개최됩니다. 이 회의는 여성들의 역량 강화와 경제활동 참여 활성화를 위한 정책과 프로그램들을 공유하고 다양한 협력 방안이 논의될 예정입니다. 여러분들의 많은 관심과 협력을 부탁드립니다. 아무쪼록 오늘 행사가 아시아 태평양 지역 여성의 권익과 평등, 역량 강화를 위한 의미 있는 자리가 되기를 기원합니다. 감사합니다.
Thank you so much, Assistant Minister, for your speech and all your work to realize the vision of gender equal society here in the Republic of Korea. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it's my great privilege and honor to introduce you to His Excellency Ban Ki-moon. Now, many of us here feel that this is our dream to see him in person, right? His Excellency Ban Ki-moon's lifelong legacy for gender equality is still with us. And I'd like to acknowledge that part of the reasons why UN Women exist here is truly because of him. So ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Mr. Ban Ki-moon.
Thank you for your very kind introduction. Mr. Kim Ki-nam, Assistant Minister for Gender Equality and Family, Republic of Korea. Ms. Alison Miriam Davidian, Special Representative for the UN Women Afghanistan Country Office, and Excellencies, distinguished ambassadors, diplomatic corps members, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Before I begin my own speech, I'd like to thank my deepest appreciation to United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres and Ambassador Sima Bahus, who is now Under Secretary General in charge of UN Women, for their very kind message on this very auspicious occasion. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to speak to you on the occasion of today's International Women's Day commemoration. I was informed that since this year's International Women's Day fell on last Saturday, March 8th, we are commemorating it today. Taking this opportunity, I extend my warm welcome to Ms. Davian, Special Representative for the UN Women Afghanistan Country Office, for your hard work on the challenging situation. Thank you for your presence and all the best for your future endeavor. At the same time, the attendance of many ambassadors and diplomatic corps members and supporters and friends demonstrate global attention to and support for the further engagement and empowerment of women and girls. As we gather here today, the theme of this year's commemoration, I quote, "For all women and girls, rights, equality, empowerment," resonate deeply, deeply with me. During my tenure as the 8th Secretary General of the United Nations, I highly prioritized International Women's Day. So today's event brings back many memories from those commemorations and the remarks I delivered during those days. I believe today's theme serves as a powerful reminder that we are still very far from where we need to be in the sphere of women's rights. Indeed, we are struggling with entrenched inequalities that affect not only women's lives, but also the social, economic, and political development of our entire world. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action, which was adopted in 1995, is one of the most significant milestones in our global pursuit of gender equality. It is not a mere framework, but a call to action that demands the full participation of women and girls in every aspect of life, everywhere. The Beijing Platform for Action set out a bold agenda across 12 critical areas, from economic empowerment and education to health, violence prevention, and political participation. Since my time as UN Secretary General, I have championed this agenda because I believed that I continue to believe that the empowerment of women is not just a moral imperative, but a game changer for peace and security and economic development. We cannot achieve the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development or solve conflicts or combat climate change without achieving SDG goal number 5, which means the empowerment of women and girls. As this year marks the 30th anniversary of the Beijing Declaration and the 15th anniversary of establishing UN Women, we need to look back on 3 decades of progress and 15 years of progress when it comes to UN Women, and ask ourselves how we have done enough. Have we done enough? While there is much to celebrate, more girls in school, more women in leadership roles, and more global recognition of gender equality, I have to admit, I think we must admit that women and girls all around the world still face tremendous challenges in both low and high income countries and their dignified life in their social life. According to UN Women's 2023 report, 1 in 3 women worldwide will experience physical or sexual violence in their lifetime. And the global gender pay gap remains at least 20%, with women earning, on average, 20% less than men for work for equal value. In the corporate world, women occupy only 25% of the board-level positions globally. In political offices, only 25% of parliamentarians worldwide are women. When it comes to parliamentarians, women parliamentarians, in 2012, I was paying an official visit in my capacity as Secretary General, and I addressed the National Assembly. At the time, I remember later who became president, Park Geun-hye. She was a member of parliament, and there were very few women parliamentarians in 2012. In my speech, I said that there must be at least 20% of women in this hall. Then it took, I think, 12 years, exactly 12 years. The current membership of Korean Parliament, exactly 20%. I am not much satisfied, but still grateful that they have taken note of my urging to the members of Parliament. Ladies and gentlemen, in the corporate world, business, women occupy 25% of the board-level positions globally. In political offices, only 25% of parliamentarians worldwide are women. So this is average, whether you are living in developed or developing countries. In this regard, gap between commitments and actions remain unfortunately wide. Therefore, on this occasion, I call on all the government, development partners, businesses, philanthropies, civil society organizations, and global citizens to step up as a matter of top priority to fully realize the promises we made 30 years ago in Beijing. I am personally proud that I played an important role in establishing UN Women in 2010 in order to accelerate the UN's work on gender equality and women's empowerment. And I'm also pleased to see UN Women this year celebrating its landmark 15th anniversary as a global force for good, connecting the dots to leave no one behind. But the reality is that UN Women cannot do this work alone. It needs every government, every institutions, and each and every one of you to help all women and girls live a life free from violence, discrimination, and injustice. Taking this opportunity of 15th anniversary of establishing of UN Women, I have something to tell you, some secret things. When, as a new Secretary General, I really wanted to establish UN Women. In every country, every society, every companies, establishing a new bureau or new big organization, it is very hard, very hard. United Nations, if my memory serves me correct, since then, I don't think any new organizations has been established in the United Nations, except UN Women. When I pushed this one, there was a strong complaints from diplomatic corps, particularly some ambassadors. Then one ambassador had an interview with the New York Times. I was so surprised one day morning. Quote, what he said, Secretary General is not the king. We are not his subject, unquote. In his own name, it was a quoted name. I knew, I don't want to reveal the name of that ambassador and the country. I met the prime minister of that country, Prime Minister of the country, Mr. Prime Minister, I never claimed that I am a king. How come your ambassador accused me like this way, publicly, in New York Times? Oh, he was embarrassed. He was embarrassed. Then he immediately sent his national security advisor and his ambassador sitting before me in my office, apologized. Of course, he was recalled. He was recalled. After that, after this story spread, all the ambassadors didn't make any opposition. That's why I was able to establish this very hard work of establishing big organization with, with the UN Women, with the Under-Secretary General level. Then I was thinking that who should be the first one leader? Then there was some former prime ministers, women prime minister, former president, etc. Then I chose Colombian former president. Now she's still in UN system now, and you know her name. But in any way, she made the big foundation. After serving 2 years, she went back to Colombia and became president again. She was re-elected. After that, she came back to UN again. So this women empowerment really makes a lot of support and impact now. Again, ladies and gentlemen, I'll just try to finish. Empowering women and girls is not just the right things to do. It is also the smartest single action to spur global progress for a more sustainable, peaceful, and prosperous future for all of humanity. Some people may contend that gender equality is not possible to achieve due to the different culture, but this is simply not true. Culture is often used as an excuse for doing nothing or not doing enough to maintain the status quo. And history shows many powerful examples where human progress was made when harmful cultural practices were halted and instead seen as injustice and oppression. With the political will, concerted efforts, and the shared commitment, we can break down the structural barriers to ensure all women and girls can thrive. We cannot wait another decade before we take serious, meaningful steps to achieve gender equality. The simple fact is when women and girls are suffering and their capacities and potentials are not maximized, this hampers us from having a better future. This is why I care. And this is why we must all take gender equality as our serious mission, a top priority business. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, let me now highlight 3 aspects that I believe require our particular attention in our work for gender equality. First, the empowerment of women and girls with disabilities is a critical part of our fight for gender equality. I always emphasize the importance of inclusive societies because true progress cannot be achieved if we leave behind those who face the greatest barriers. Second, we need to engage men and boys in challenging gender norms. Too often, we end up excluding men and boys from these conversations on women's rights. And in order to bring them on board, we need to make particular efforts to be strategic, welcoming, and inclusive. Third, the private sector must play its part as a key actor for accelerating gender equality with the firm belief that equality means a better business and elevated prosperity. You can adopt family-friendly policies offer equal pay for equal work, and take more proactive measures to attract, train, retain, and take more proactive measures to attract, train, retain, and promote female talent. I encourage private sector leaders present here today to commit to advancing gender equality in their offices. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the empowerment of women and girls is the key to unlocking a better future for all. Next generation is counting on us. Let us not fail them. Let us together ensure that the next 10 years will be different from today. We should not just enjoy today's celebration in this room. We should go out and translate our words into concrete action for rights, equality, and empowerment of all women and girls. Thank you for your leadership and strong commitment for gender empowerment. Thank you very much. 감사합니다.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I ask you to please stand up and then just in recognition in honor of Mr. Ban Ki-moon's lifelong legacy for gender equality. Thank you very much. Thank you. Now, next we are going to take group photo, and we have 250 people in this hall, so it's not an easy exercise, ladies and gentlemen. So please kindly be patient with us a little bit. I will explain to you. We'll take 3 photos. The first photo, the photographer will be standing on the step and then basically facing you, so that we can take picture of everyone. 2 photographers will take, and we'll basically combine those 2 photos. So we'll take that, and then we'll ask the ambassadors and distinguished speakers and partners to kindly come forward to the stage in 2 rounds. So please kindly be patient and follow my instruction, please. So we will first ask the photographer to kindly say 1, 2, 3, and then take the photo from the front. Much. Now we'll ask kindly our ambassadors and speakers in tables 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to kindly come to the stage. Tables 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, ambassadors and speakers. If you are seated in table 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, please kindly come forward. Okay, please kindly smile. Very nice. 1, 2, 3, smile. Kindly say after me for all women and girls, okay? So 1, 2, 3, for all women and girls. Thank you. Please kindly go back, and the speakers, please kindly remain. Okay, thank you very much. So let's hold up the picture. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you so much. Please kindly go back to your seat.
World leaders dreamed of a reality where all women and girls have equal rights and opportunity by 2030.
Promise us that you will keep your commitments and invest in our future.
With 6 years to go, can we get there? At the current rate, a girl born today will be 39 before women hold as many seats in parliament as men, 68 before child marriage ends, and 137 before extreme poverty for women and girls is eradicated. At the same time, there is more evidence than ever before that progress is possible. Countries with domestic violence laws have lower rates of intimate partner violence. The digital divide is closing, with nearly 75% of women owning mobile phones in 2023. And there are 5.4 million more girls in school now than there were in 2015. In the face of conflict, crisis, and climate change, we cannot afford to overlook half the world's population. The costs of gender inequality are too high, and the benefits of equality too great to ignore. We're calling on world leaders to commit and invest now, so that all women and girls can fulfill their potential. Gender equality is not just a dream. It can be a reality, but only if we all step up.
So, ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure to invite Ms. Alison Davidian, Special Representative UN Women Afghanistan Country Office, based in Kabul. She came all the way from Afghanistan to solve this event, so we are very grateful to Alison for her precious time. Before leading UN Women Afghanistan Office, she led governance, peace, and security programs across Asia and the Pacific and UN Women's Regional Office, and also managed the Access to Justice program in Uganda. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Alison.
I was in Kabul on the 15th of August 2021, the day the Taliban took control of the city, and with it, the entire country. It was a day that sent shockwaves across the world as a group with one of the most brutal records on women's rights declared their victory to the world. And I witnessed firsthand how decades of progress on women's rights disappeared, it felt like overnight. Women were told straight away to stay at home, and over time their access to employment and the workforce has been largely stripped away. The Ministry of Women's Affairs was abolished. That was one of the first things that the Taliban did. And it's been replaced by morality police that enforce discriminatory decrees. Girls are not able to go to high school in Afghanistan, and women are not able to go to university, making it the only country in the world that bans women and girls from secondary education as a matter of policy. Now, the Taliban has been in power for just over 3 years, but the impacts of its policies are already being felt and will be felt for generations to come. We have data that shows that by next year, 2026, the impact of having 1.1 million girls out of high school correlates with a rise in maternal mortality by 50%. And by 2066, the impact of not having women in higher education will cost Afghanistan $9.6 billion, which is equivalent to 2/3 of its GDP. But this is not just Afghanistan's crisis. Afghanistan's situation is extreme, but it's a reminder, and a very stark reminder, of how precarious progress is on women's rights, and how quickly the erosion of women's rights can spread globally. Oppression, it doesn't always start with guns and violence. It can also start with laws and policies. It starts when rights are treated as negotiable and freedoms, basic freedoms, are treated as optional. We're at a pretty critical juncture when it comes to women's rights and gender equality. The very foundation of gender equality feels like it's under siege, and it's quite an existential moment. Multilateralism is unraveling. Geopolitical tensions are deepening. And the cooperation on shared problems that we have taken for granted feels like it's becoming more and more fragile. And every day we open the news and the headlines speak of chaos and unpredictability and crisis. The tectonic plates of global power are shifting, and women's rights, women's bodies and choices are caught right in the middle. In times of instability, one of the first casualties are women's rights. And as global power shifts, authoritarian regimes often tend to want to dismantle gender equality institutions, laws and policies because they see it as a threat to their control. And we see it. We see it in the weakening of laws that protect women from violence. We see it in the rollbacks on reproductive freedoms. We see it in the suspension of affirmative action policies that have been designed to address historical injustices. And these are not isolated setbacks. The erosion of women's rights goes hand in hand with the denial of fundamental freedoms. And at a time where the world feels more and more unstable, gender equality is being sidelined. It's being pushed aside. It's being deprioritized and defunded. Why? Because at its heart, gender equality questions systems of power. And power does not like to be questioned. I've been working on women's rights for almost 2 decades now, and during that time we've seen evidence that is irrefutable that shows that gender equality isn't just a moral imperative. It's just not just like a nice thing to do or a good thing to do. It's an operational imperative. It's the very foundation of and driver of stable, secure and prosperous societies. We have so much evidence to show that when women are part of economies, they thrive. When women are in leadership in government, economies are stronger and more stable. When women are part of negotiating peace agreements, those agreements last longer. And when women are part of the executive boards of companies, those companies do better. All of this points to a truth that I think we sometimes forget, and it's a truth that's both simple, but it's quite radical, and that is that men and women in all of our diversity are equal, and that our societies thrive when that equality is fostered, invested in, and celebrated. But despite all of this evidence that gender equality benefits everyone, the pushback is not only persisting, but it's deepening. Does it matter? Does it really matter if gender equality is backsliding? It does, because when women are excluded, we all lose. We all lose when we lose half of our potential and the potential of future generations to contribute to more prosperous societies. And if we truly believe in progress, we need to act. And we need to act now. And that means 3 things: fund, protect, empower. Fund. We need to fund women's organizations. Women's organizations are the lifeblood of change. They have the connections, the networks, the trust of communities to really reach women and girls, the most vulnerable women and girls. But despite this, they only get a fraction of global funding. We need to continue to invest in them, invest in civil society leaders and frontline humanitarians who are really driving change. Secondly, we need to protect laws that protect women. Must not only exist on paper, they need to be enforced, and we need to resist every rollback. We also need to double down our investment in initiatives and programs that empower women, especially around education, employment, and entrepreneurship. It's not just about giving women opportunities, but these are the tools needed to really address the structural drivers of inequality. The fight for women's rights isn't a one-time victory. It's a perpetual battle, and we need to fight it every single day. And finally, we need to empower women's leadership, and we need to intentionally break down the cycles of exclusion. And it's important that women are not just in the room, but they're leading the conversations that affect them and they affect their communities, their voices and their vision. This is how we create a future that's not only just, but also transformative. When we fail to act, when we fail to fund, when we fail to protect and empower, we're not just losing progress on women's rights, we're losing progress on societies as a whole. And I've seen firsthand the devastating impacts, the harsh realities, when men are treated as the standard and women are the exception. And maybe you're thinking, oh, Afghanistan, it's an isolated case. It's very far away. But Afghanistan is an extreme example of the gender inequalities that exist in all of our societies. And because it's extreme, we think it can never happen to us. It can never happen to our societies. It can never happen to our communities. But then one day, we wake up, there's a change of power, there's a new regime, and the things we took for granted are not there anymore. This isn't just about women. This is about our economies thriving, our society stabilizing, and humanity advancing. Gender equality is not just a side issue, it's the very foundation of a stable, prosperous, and more just world. And that's why Afghanistan is not just a cautionary tale, but it's a call to action. The tectonic plates of global power are shifting, and the question is, will women be buried under them? Or will we rise, and will we together shape a better future? The choice is ours, and the situation has never been more urgent. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Davidian, for your courage and for your passionate call to action. Thank you so much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure to invite our next speaker, Ms. Ye-won Kim. Our Korean participants, you may have seen Ms. Ye-won Kim on TV shows such as Sebashi or China in Class. If you haven't watched those videos yet, please do after this event because they are very good. Ms. Ye-won Kim is Korea's first public interest attorney with a visual disability and the founder of the Disability Rights Advocacy Center. She has been providing pro bono support to women and children who are victims of crimes in vulnerable situations. As a renowned human rights activist and social advocate, she was awarded a presidential commendation in 2021 and received the Grand Award for Public Interest Lawyer from the Korea Bar Association in 2023. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Attorney Kim.
Firstly, it's a very great honor and privilege for me to come here and share my story. I'd like to share my story in Korean. 먼저 정말 많은 어려움을 뚫고 이 자리에 와주신 여러분들 너무 만나서 반갑습니다. 그리고 또 저의 부족한 생각을 또 많은 귀한 분들 앞에서 나눌 기회를 주셔서 정말 감사하고 또 영광입니다. 오늘 저는 저의 이야기를 통해서 이 여성 인권에 대해서 아직 해결되지 않은 그런 문제들에 대해서 같이 이야기해 보려고 합니다. 저는 장애인권법센터라고 하는 곳에서 변호사로 일하고 있어요. 좀 작은 법률 사무소인데요. 하는 일이 조금 특이해서 NGO로 생각하시는 분들이 좀 많이 있습니다. 왜 특이하냐면요. 저는 장애가 있거나 아주 나이가 아주 어리거나 아주 많거나 뭐 아주 극단적으로 가난하신 이런 사람들이, 그러니까 사회적으로 되게 덜 대표된 그런 사람들만 공짜로 변호하기 때문입니다. 도저히 그 사람을 옹호할 어떤 누구도 없는 되게 취약한 상황에 계신 분들, 그분들이 범죄 피해를 당했을 때 그 피해자를 지원하는 일을 주로 하고 있어요. 그래서 저는 사건 지원만 할 수가 없어요. 그런 일이 반복되지 않으려면 결국 되게 불공평한 법이나 또 정책들이 바뀌어야 되잖아요. 그래서 저는 공짜로 사건 지원을 하면서도 또 제도 개선을 주 업무로 하고 있는 공익 변호사로 살고 있습니다. 그래서 사람들이 이제 궁금해해요. 변호사가 후원도 받지 않고 국가 지원도 받지 않고 무료 사건만 한다. 그러니까 궁금해하거든요. 왜 이 일을 하는지. 그래서 그분들 중에 또 적지 않은 분들이 제가 장애인 당사자라서 그래서 이 일을 하고 있구나라고 생각하더라고요. 그런데 아니에요. 저는 관찰하고 또 목소리를 내는 것이 세상을 바꾸는데 중요한 도움이 된다고 믿기 때문에 이 일을 하고 있습니다. 또 제가 이 일을 하는 이유는 이 각기 다른 상황 속에서 이 모든 여성과 여아를 위해서 우리가 할 일과 연결되어 있습니다. 그래서 오늘은 이 모든 여성을 위한 3가지 관찰 포인트에 대해서 여러분과 이야기를 하려고 합니다. 먼저 첫 번째인데요. 옛날에나 있었던 일이다 라고 생각되는 것들에 대해서 정말 그런지 관찰하는 것입니다. 저는 한눈으로만 세상을 보는 시각장애인인데요. 태어날 때 의료사고로 한쪽 눈이 없어지면서 평생 한쪽 눈으로만 살아왔어요. 근데 이게 단순히 의료사고라고 하기는 조금 어려워요. 자세히 들여다보면 그 당시에 이 여성 그리고 여아가 어떤 자리에 놓여 있었는지 알 수 있거든요. 저는 첫째 아이로 태어났어요. 엄마가 양수가 터진 것을 한참 지나서 알게 되셔가지고 되게 난산을 하시게 된 거예요. 아빠는 당시에 병원에 계시지 않았고 엄마의 유일한 보호자가 엄마의 시어머니, 그러니까 저의 할머니였죠. 분만실에서 정신을 거의 잃어가고 있는 엄마를 보면서 의사가 도저히 자연분만이 안 될 것 같다. 그러니까 수술을 해야 된다. 이렇게 얘기를 했는데 할머니가 반대하셨어요. 제가 여자아이였고 만약에 수술로 태어나면 그 당시에는 이제 2명 정도밖에 아이를 낳을 수 없다고 했거든요. 그런데 그 둘 다 딸이면 어떡하냐는 거예요. 그래서 아이는 살리지 않아도 된다라고 하면서 이 수술을 거부했습니다. 그래서 엄마가 결국 정신 잃으시고 의사가 수술이 아닌 방법으로 저를 꺼내려고 했어요. 근데 처음에는 의료용 집게로 꺼내려고 하다가 잘 되지 않자 갈고리로 집어넣어서 엄마 몸에서 저를 끄집어내고 그 과정에서 제 한쪽 눈이 없어진 거죠. 살아서 태어난 것이 막 기적이다 이러면서 정작 저한테 무슨 일이 생겼는지 말해주는 사람이 없었습니다. 그렇게 하고 13년이 지나서 그 수술방에 있던 간호사분이 저희 엄마의 직장 동료로 오시게 되면서 그날의 비밀이 밝혀진 거예요. 근데 13년이나 지났잖아요. 그럼 법적으로 할 수 있는 게 하나도 없었어요. 그래서 저는 되게 억울했어요. 또 그러다가 세상에 또 이런 억울한 일을 당하는 사람들이 되게 많을 거다. 그럼 내가 직업적으로 이 일을 좀 돕는 일을 하고 싶다. 뭐 이래서 변호사가 됐으니까 사실 어떻게 보면 제 인생을 바꾼 계기가 된 사건이긴 한데요. 지금도 이해가 가지 않는 것. 할머니가 왜 그랬을까? 본인도 여성이면서 왜 내가 딸이라는 이유로 수술에 동의하지 않았을까? 그때는 40년 전이니까 여자아이보다 남자아이 더 원하던 시대니까 그럴 수 있지 않았겠냐 이렇게 생각하시는 분도 있을 거예요. 시대가 변해서 지금은 그런 일 생기지 않는다. 과연 그럴까요? 저는 사건을 통해서 수많은 사람들을 만납니다. 얼마 전에는 태어날 때부터 지적장애가 심하게 있는 성폭력 피해 여성을 만났거든요. 근데 집에 찾아가서 그 여성과 무슨 일이 있었는지 사건 이야기를 하고 또 그 여성의 어머니와 별도로 이야기를 나눴어요. 근데 그 어머니가 저한테 그러시는 거예요. 수술 날짜를 잡는데요. 그래서 누가 무슨 수술하냐고 제가 물어봤더니 자신의 딸인 이 피해 여성이 앞으로 임신 못하도록 난관을 자르는 영구 불임 수술을 예약했다는 거예요. 그러면서 저한테 하시는 말씀이 한 개 고민이 되는 거는 어차피 딸이 다달이 월경 처리가 제대로 안 되니까 아예 자궁을 드러내는 수술로 해야 되나? 그 얘기를 하시는 겁니다. 저는 속으로 엄청 놀랐는데 일단 아무렇지 않은 척하고 물어봤어요. 어머니 혹시 따님이 지금 무슨 수술을 하려는 건지 알아요? 동의했어요? 이렇게 물어봤더니 어차피 말해도 모른다고. 원치 않는 임신을 해서 고통받을 자식을 위해서 부모가 해주는 건데 뭐 어떠냐 그렇게 얘기를 하시더라고요. 그래서 제가 이렇게 얘기했어요. 어머니 따님이 동의 안 했는데 그 수술 하시면요 저 어머니 경찰에 신고할 수밖에 없는데 어떻게 괜찮으시겠어요? 하고 말씀드렸어요. 말린 거죠. 여러분 이 일들은요 40년 전에만 있었던 일이 아니라 오늘날에도 있는 일이에요. 옛날에만 있었던 일이고 태어난 나라가 다르니까 있었던 일이고 자라온 문화가 달랐으니까 있었던 일이다. 예외적인 일이다. 그렇지 않습니다. 보시다시피 같은 나라, 같은 시대를 사는 사람이라도 장애 여성이나 소녀와 같이 더 취약한 사람에게는 지금도 일어나는 일이에요. 그래서 저는 이걸 관찰하면서 물어봅니다. 이거 진짜 옛날에만 있었던 일 맞아요? 이렇게. 두 번째는 이미 법으로 또 제도로 정착되었다고 믿는 것들에 대한 관찰이에요. 오랫동안 싸워서 법이나 매뉴얼이 어느 정도 실무에 정착됐다라고 믿어지는 것들 있잖아요. 그런 것들이 제도의 퇴행으로 순식간에 예전 상황으로 휙 되돌아가는 그런 상황을 만납니다. 사실 지금도 세계 여러 나라에서 이런 사례를 볼 수 있죠. 방금 전에 우리 다 들었잖아요. 정치나 종교를 주도하는 세력이 바뀌면서 원래 여성들이 당연하게 누려왔던 권리들이 한순간에 위협받는 그런 상황들. 이런 것들은 단순한 백래시라고 보기는 어려운 구조적인 퇴행입니다. 얼마 전에 제가 겪은 일 하나 말씀드릴게요. 최근 몇 년 사이에 한국이 이 형사소송법이 크게 바뀌면서 이제는 경찰이 검찰의 슈퍼비전이나 리뷰 없이 사건을 단독으로 종결할 수 있게 되었습니다. 이 모든 사건의 수사를 경찰이 도맡아 하다 보니까 경찰의 수사 부담이 커지고 한편으로는 판단 권한도 커졌어요. 근데 큰 권한일수록 여러분 통제돼야 된다는 거 아시죠? 다 동의하시죠? 그런데 갑작스럽게 이렇게 법이 개정되면서 이 수사권을 통제하는 시스템이 약해지면서 요새 현장에서 이런 일이 생기고 있습니다. 한 성인 여성이 직장에서 성적인 괴롭힘을 당했다 이렇게 경찰에 신고를 했거든요. 근데 그 경찰이 그 사건을 혐의 없다라고 하면서 종결하면서 이 피해 여성한테 이렇게 말하는 거예요. 이 일이 소문나면 직장에서 평판도 안 좋아지고 본인도 창피하니까 우리가 배려해서 요 정도로 정리할게요. 저는 이 얘기를 전해 듣고요. 다리에 힘이 쭉 풀리는 것 같았습니다. 왜냐하면 수사기관에서 성폭력 피해 여성한테 이런 식으로 말을 하면서 사건을 종결하는 일이 법이나 우리가 정한 기준에 위반된다. 이거는 이미 결론이 났던 얘기예요. 근데 스리슬쩍 이게 다시 나타난 거죠. 우리는 벌써 예전에 이 산을 넘어서 훨씬 더 나은 이야기를 하고 있었거든요. 인권적 수사를 어떻게 하면 잘할지, 성폭력 피해자 어떻게 더 편견 없이 잘 지원할지 그런 얘기하고 있었는데 수사 권력을 통제하는 시스템이 잘 작동되지 않게 되면서 이렇게 퇴보하더라는 겁니다. 그래서 법이 있으니까 괜찮아, 매뉴얼대로 되고 있으니까 괜찮아, 이렇게 방심하면 안 되겠더라고요. 자녀를 낳고 기르는 일도 마찬가지입니다. 세계에서 가장 빠르게 인구가 소멸하고 있는 한국. 그래서 요새 이 초저출생 문제를 해결하기 위해서 다양한 법과 정책이 만들어지고 있죠. 아빠 육아휴직도 적극적으로 권장하고 무상보육 해주고 또 각종 지원금도 생겨나고 있어요. 그런데요, 제가 셋째 아이를 뱃속에 임신해서 한 7개월쯤 됐을 때 성폭력 피해로 임신해서 출산이 한 달 정도 남은 지적장애 여성이랑 피해 사실을 진술하러 경찰서에 같이 간 적이 있었어요. 근데 그때 이제 서로 배가 이만큼 불러가지고 이렇게 만나서 손잡고 간 거죠. 근데 저는 그 사건보다도 이제 태어날 이 여성의 아이를 어떻게 되나 그게 고민이 많이 되더라고요. 제가 사회복지사이기도 한데요, 장애 여성이 혼자서 이 아이를 양육할 수 있는 방법을 찾아보는, 정말 찾기가 어려워요. 아기 태어나고 전화를 하루에 100통은 한 것 같아요. 온통 거절, no, 다 안 된다는 거예요. 이 여성이 이혼한 적이 있기 때문에 미혼모 시설에서 거절됐었어요. 아기와 동반 입소가 안 된다고 해서 장애인 시설 못 갔어요. 아기가 장애아로 태어날 가능성이 있다, 입양기관에서도 지원이 안 됐어요. 그래서 결국 이 여성은 아기를 양육하는 걸 포기했고, 제가 이 아이가 입소할 보육원을 겨우겨우 찾았거든요. 그래서 이 태어난 아기의 출생신고를 하고 택시에 같이 타가지고 그 시설로 이렇게 이동하면서 그런 생각이 드는 거예요. 막 이렇게 생기고 있는 이 출산 지원책들이 사실 아주 취약한 상황에 있는 사람들한테는 어쩌면 되게 꿈 같은 얘기 아닐까? 남 얘기 아닐까? 제가 법이 있다고 안심하지 않는, 그 세심하게 관찰하는 이유이기도 합니다. 마지막으로 새롭게 만들어지는 차별에 대해서 관찰하는 것을 이야기하고 싶어요. 저는 15년 동안 변호사로, 그리고 여성에게 가해지는 여러 성적인 괴롭힘이나 폭력에 개입을 하고 있는데, 최근 몇 년 사이에 유독 강하게 느끼는 것이 뭐냐면요, 여성을 성적으로 대상화하는 시도들 있죠. 그게 대부분 온라인을 기반으로 일어나고 있다는 겁니다. 세상은 막 AI니 블록체인이니 증강현실이니 이러면서 막 시끌벅적하게 앞으로 막 나아가는 것 같잖아요. 근데 그 틈을 파고드는 새로운 유형의 여성 억압과 차별도 있더라고요. 처음에는 온라인에서 시작돼서 결국에는 오프라인으로 사건이 연결되고 있어요. 제가 요새 이런 일들로 고통받는 여성들, 특히 장애를 가진 여성 청소년들을 지원하면서 제가 제일 좌절하는 부분이 뭔지 아세요? 이 사회가 너무 쉽게 이들의 잘못으로 단정을 짓는 거예요. 네가 제대로 안 알아봤잖아. 네가 그 프로그램 깔았잖아. 네가 네 계정 만들었잖아. 네가 사진 찍어서 보냈잖아. 그러니까 네 책임이지. 이거 어디서 많이 들어본 것 같지 않으세요? 누가 옷을 그렇게 입으래? 그러게 왜 그 시간에 거기 돌아다니래? 왜 이들이 온라인에서 취약할 수밖에 없는, 이런 새로운 억압에 취약할 수밖에 없는지, 그런 약한 고리는 보려고 하지 않아요. 신기술을 이용해서 반복되는 피해를 만드는 이 견고한 구조가 있는데 그거를 보려고 하지 않고 그냥 피해자만 계속 다그치는 거예요. 그럼 또 저는 똑같이 얘기를 합니다. 이게 분명히 장애가 있는 어린 여성인 점을 이용해서 온라인으로 접근해서 환심을 사고 정신적으로 고립시켜서 벌어진 일인데, 아버지가 자기가 자식을 잘못 키웠다 이러면서 막 한탄하는, 그럼 제가 아버지한테 그러는 거예요. 이거는 따님 잘못이 아니에요. 저는 이 똑같은 얘기 이제 그만 말하고 싶어요. 하지만 이 현실이 온라인이라는 이 새 도구를 이용한 구조적인 차별이 있다라는 것을 인정하기 전까지는 저는 이 말을 계속 할 수밖에 없을 것 같아요. 그래서 가끔 슬픕니다. 어떤 분들은 그렇게 믿어요. 성평등은 사회 인식 수준이 올라가면 점차 나아질 거다. 근데 하지만 저는 그런 말을 믿지 않아요. 왜? 어제 인식 좋으신 분들이 100명 이제 돌아가셨어요. 그리고 오늘 인식이 전혀 없으신 분들이 또 100명 태어나셨거든요. 인식은 저절로 절대로 바뀌지 않아요. 차별과 억압도 절대로 저절로 극복되거나 철폐되지 않아요. 그래서 저는 틈날 때마다 저의 새 아이들에게 제가 관찰하는 것에 대해서 이야기를 나눕니다. 이거 좀 이상한 것 같아. 이렇게요. 그 과정이 없이 지금 현실을 아이들에게 설명할 자신이 없어요. 전 세계적으로 왜 여성 노동자가 남성 노동자에 비해서 80%밖에 임금을 못 받는지, 정치인이나 기업가나 고위공직자 되는 여성이 남성의 30%도 안 되는지, 이런 작은 관찰들이 쌓여야 이게 남의 얘기가 아닌 내 이야기가 되거든요. 우리가 이미 극복했다라고 믿는 불평등이나 철폐되었다라고 믿는 차별은 사실 우리 삶에 계속 남아 있습니다. 불청객처럼 다시 되돌아오기도 하고요. 새로운 형태로 진화해서 나타나기도 해요. 그래서 제가 택한 평등을 가져올 열쇠, 뭔지 아세요? 바로 묻는 것입니다. 이게 최선이에요? 왜 그래야 돼요? 라고 물음을 직업적으로 계속 던지고 싶어서 이 일을 하고 있습니다. 여러분도 여러분이 계신 곳에서 그 물음을 아마 이어가고 계실 거라고 믿어요. 한국의 속담 하나 소개해 드리면서 마치려고 합니다. 한국의 속담 중에는 계란으로 바위치기라는 속담이 있습니다. 되게 불가능하고 또 무모해 보이고 도저히 승산이 없는 것처럼 보이는 그런 일이거든요. 계란을 바위에 아무리 던져봤자 바위는 꿈쩍도 하지 않잖아요. 계란만 깨지니까요. 근데 그거 아세요, 여러분? 요새 바위들은 계란으로 더럽혀지는 거 싫어하더라고요. 계란이 묻어있는 바위는 사람들이 막 쳐다보고 무슨 일인지 물어보고 관심을 가지잖아요. 막 SNS에 실시간으로 막 올라가잖아요. 그래서 바위 입장에서는 되게 귀찮고 되게 곤혹스러운 그런 일인 거예요. 그래서 깨지지 않는 바위라도 계란을 계속 던진다면 바위는 예전과는 다른 선택을 할지도 모릅니다, 여러분. 관찰하고 되물을 때 우리 손에 든 계란을 바위를 향해서 던질 용기를 얻습니다. 한 손을 이렇게 올려보실래요? 네. 계란을 던진 준비가 되셨나요? 감사합니다.
Thank you so much, Attorney Kim, for this most inspiring speech. Thank you. After this event, we will upload these videos in both languages on our channel, and I'm sure you have people that come to your mind that you'd like to share this video with. So please do not just take the inspiration for yourselves here, but please share with others afterwards as well. Now, before I invite my next speaker, we are going to play a short video on UN Women's He for She campaign just as a transition, and then I'll invite our next speaker.
Is at the heart of the matter, as we still live in a male-dominated world with a male-dominated culture.
We want to end gender inequality. And to do this, we need everyone involved.
We men must play an active role in ensuring a more just world.
It's about engaging governments, businesses, and universities, and having them make concrete commitments to gender equality.
Why is it always women who have to break through the glass ceiling? Where are the men willing to throw boulders down through it?
And so you do need men to partner in terms of undoing those injustices when you look at things like pay equality.
Gender equality and gender equity make 100% business sense.
We shall commit ourselves to ensuring that there's no gender-based violence, no child abuse, no forced early child marriages. Men must also take a stand.
Воспитывайте своих детей, объясняйте, что насилие – это неправильно, его не должно быть ни в каком виде.
We have the opportunity to change something now. That's what He for She is about. Gender equality is good for everyone. Are you with us?
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to invite you to our next speaker, Ms. Umberto Carollo, Executive Director of White Ribbon Canada. Mr. Carollo traveled all the way from Canada to join us today, and I'd like to acknowledge the special partnership with and support from the Canadian Embassy in Seoul, who mostly kindly enabled us to have Mr. Carollo at this event. In UN Women, we believe that engaging men and boys is an absolute necessity in our journey towards gender equality, and this is why we have invited Mr. Carollo as our speaker. He is leading a global movement to engage men and boys in preventing violence against women and challenging harmful gender norms. He has provided expert guidance on gender equity and healthy masculinities to governments, UN agencies, and organizations, and he serves on advisory councils for Canada's Department of National Defence and Ontario's Domestic Violence Death Review Committee. Ladies and gentlemen, please kindly welcome Mr. Humberto Carollo.
Thank you so much for this kind invitation, and thank you for the wonderful speakers for sharing your story. It has been so inspiring. Honorable delegates, esteemed colleagues, and dedicated advocates, good morning, bonjour, annyeonghaseyo. My name is Umberto Carollo. I'm the CEO of White Ribbon, an organization based in Canada on the traditional territories of the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. It is a privilege to stand before you today on behalf of White Ribbon to celebrate International Women's Day, a day that serves as an opportunity to recognize women's achievements and advocate for gender equality. International Women's Day is not just about honoring women and gender diverse individuals. It is about building a world where everyone can live free from violence, discrimination, and inequality. It is about challenging outdated norms and fostering transformative values. As we gather here in Seoul, we must confront a pressing challenge: the rise of misogyny and harmful gender narratives online. Today, both physical and digital spaces have become hubs where harmful ideologies take root, fueling hatred, reinforcing rigid gender norms, and undermining progress towards equality. The role of men and boys in addressing these issues is essential, and today I invite all of us to work together to contribute to meaningful change. Let us reaffirm our collective commitment to justice, equity, and a future free from all forms of gender-based violence. Many men still view gender equality and gender-based violence as a women's issue, but it's on all of us to step up and join efforts with the women's movement to create change. As a boy and young man, I grew up witnessing inequity and violence, watching the women I love experienced that violence in my home, in the community. As I grew up, I became an adoptive dad of 3 boys who lost their birth family to poverty, addictions, and family violence. I carry with me the promise to help new generations of young people grow up with peace and equality in their homes and communities. Inspired, motivated, and hungry for change, resulting from these difficult chapters in my life, I began my work at White Ribbon 20 years ago this year, an organization dedicated to eradicating gender-based violence through the engagement of boys and men. Today, 20 years later, I am proud to lead White Ribbon and foster change. I share my own connection to this important issue to help men understand the importance of their involvement in gender equality, regardless of their upbringing or their own experiences. Gender equality is good for all of us. We know that gender-based violence is both preventable and predictable, and transforming at individual and society levels are achievable by engaging men and boys. At White Ribbon, we invite and support men to be part of the solution in ending all forms of gender-based violence and discrimination. Our approach is novel, it's life-saving, healing, and highly successful, and we use positive, strength-based, and intersectional approaches to shift minds, hearts, and cultures to create a world free of all forms of gender-based violence and discrimination. As we celebrate International Women's Day, you may be wondering why I'm here speaking about engaging men and boys. To understand that, I want to share with you a little about the origins of White Ribbon. Our roots grew as a response to the December 6, 1989 Montreal massacre that saw hatred rob 14 women of their lives and forever impact our nation in Canada. These women were students on their path to becoming engineers at l'École Polytechnique de Montréal. But the young men that murdered them felt that women had no place in engineering. He walked into a first-year classroom, he asked the men to leave the room, and he took out a gun and killed 14 women because he didn't think that women should be in engineering. And he injured many, many others in the way. This tragedy prompted our transformational work to challenge harmful gender norms and violence and encourage men to not only stop harmful behaviors, but be active agents of change in the gender equity movement. My hope and belief is that one day, our celebrations of women's contributions will no longer require tough conversations about the violence and misogyny that women face on a daily basis. But today, as rights for women and other marginalized genders are advocated for, and we make strides towards equality, there exists a growing resistance, increased discrimination and violence. This is unfortunately nothing new for the movement, although it does come with new and unique challenges. One of these challenges is online hate culture, where boys and young men are being groomed to be violent towards women, girls, and gender diverse people. And that's happening at younger and younger ages. Recently, our national police in Canada arrested an 11-year-old boy who was exhibiting earlier radicalizations into misogynistic hatred. And he was starting to make plans to enact revenge and violence on his female classmates in his school. 11 years old, he was arrested and that violence was prevented. It is incumbent on all of us to do our part in advancing women's rights and equity by challenging all forms of violence, discrimination, and exploitation. At White Ribbon, we believe preventative measures are the most effective solution in creating long-lasting and meaningful change. And we know boys and men have an important role to play, as family members, as friends, as colleagues, leaders, and as allies. In this evolving virtual world, perpetrators of gender-based violence have increased accessibility, tools, and peer support to facilitate technological violence such as sextortion, abuse material, stalking, misinformation, and more. This has led to the manosphere, which includes sites, hubs, blogs, and online communities where misogynistic information and violent rhetoric is shared and discussed, which can often tunnel into extremism. This stems from a culture of misogyny that has been long embedded in our society. But we are working to change that, to dream and to transform. Studies have shown that men who adhere to rigid, traditional masculine gender norms tend to condone and commit higher levels of gender-based violence, while men who are aware of their privilege may be less likely to use control and violence in their relationships. Harmful gender norms also play a prominent role in violence and hate crimes against women and gender-diverse individuals. Between 2022 and 2023, CyberTip Canada noted a 45% increase in sexual exploitation reports. While young men and boys are victimized by this too, they are also the main perpetrators of this violence. In fact, further studies show that 75% of users that engage in violent extremism content online are men. As feminist movements advance in pursuit of equity, dialogue in male-dominated online spaces often equate male disconnections or failings as the fault of feminism, arguing that women's success exists to disempower men. This irrational thought feeds into some men's anger and hate, which can and does lead to intimate and sexual violence. Embracing equity and healthy masculinities is the way out of this harmful rhetoric and action. Gender-specific prevention and intervention methods are needed to change this culture and turn decades of a future free, and turn dreams of a future free from all forms of gender-based violence into a reality. But how do we do this? White Ribbon not only intervenes, but prevents. Our early intervention and prevention programs for boys and young men exhibiting misogyny or who have witnessed domestic violence have proven to be extremely effective in creating life-changing outcomes. So this is, yes, much more than about raising awareness. It's about engaging culture change, changing attitudes, minds, and hearts so that we move forward in a different way. Over the past 30 years working alongside communities and researchers, White Ribbon has established evidence-based best practices for working with men and boys. Youth that adhere to attitudes of gender equity reported lower rates of violence perpetration in all aspects of their life, including dating. Prevention supports the critical analysis of gender norms, challenges homophobia and gender-based harassment, and builds skills to question harmful masculine norms and to interrupt disrespectful behaviors. A primary prevention approach lessens the chances of boys using violence and eliminates the suffering and inequality of women and girls in the first place. Primary prevention effectively utilizes social marketing to create changes in attitudes, behaviors, and social norms in the individual, community, and society at large. Investing in primary prevention saves lives and stops violence from happening now and in the future. It saves lives and is more economical in the long term. Our innovative programs are trauma-informed and survivor-centered. Our programs are also help boys and men redefine harmful norms and increase accountability. In the digital space, our Remodeling Our Masculinities program covers a digital series featuring young social activists and community leaders that explore the topics of masculinity, equity, social justice, gender and sexual diversity, mental health, and allyship. This program advocates for a healthy online presence and socially responsible influencers. They are the alternatives to the misogynistic influencers that are so common, so popular now in the manosphere. We gotta switch those voices. We gotta empower boys and young men to become role models into the future. Most notably in the digital media sphere, White Ribbon is world-renowned for our public education campaigns that change social norms, attitudes, and behaviors. Some of those campaigns include Boys Don't Cry, which calls on boys and men to rethink harmful gender norms and stereotypes in order to promote healthier, peaceful, and inclusive alternatives. This campaign teaches men and boys to express a full range of healthy emotions, including empathy, compassion, breaking through expectations and stereotypes. We call on parents and educators to help boys and young men understand the importance of expressing healthy emotions rather than resorting to anger, control, and dominance to get their needs met. Why is it that we teach boys and young men that anger is the only acceptable emotion for boys and men to exhibit? Why aren't we teaching them that it's okay to feel hurt, to cry, to be emotional, to ask for help? We need to do that differently. And we need to start at younger ages. And we all have a role to play. Educators, parents, community leaders, faith leaders, everyone. Day after day asks men and boys to reach out for help with their emotional needs instead of choosing to use violence in their relationships. Across Canada and around the world, we saw an increase in intimate partner violence during the COVID-19 pandemic. This campaign was in response to this horrible social trend, and the way to disrupt it, call the violence out and ask men to choose a different path and commit to change. Short life stories helps men and boys understand the connection between gender-based violence, hatred, and transphobia. Sadly, LGBTQ+ communities face constant discrimination and harassment during their daily lives. Yet men can use their power of healthy masculinities to show allyship and help end the rise of hate, violence, and transphobia by speaking out against everyday discrimination and violence towards LGBTQ+ communities. My Friend Max Hate, our newest campaign, draws attention to the impact of online misogyny and hatred on the lives of boys and young men, and subsequently on their use of violence and harassment towards women and girls and gender diverse people. We ask men to positively influence the young people in their lives, to help counter the hateful voices with voices of empathy, of compassion, and allyship. These campaigns and programs can be found on White Ribbon's website and have had millions of eyes on them, with many sharing stories of how it has impacted them positively, how women and gender diverse individuals have felt seen, heard, and validated, and how men and boys have been inspired to take accountability, to shift socio-cultural norms, call others into action, and most importantly, pledge a future free from gender-based violence. At the beginning of my remarks, I said that gender-based violence is both predictable and preventable. We have studied the trends, spoken with communities, and many of us have recognized these predictable patterns ourselves as witnesses and survivors of violence. We know now what we need to do, and I know as a large group of committed individuals, we can do it. As we celebrate International Women's Day and Week, I stand with you to urge men and boys to challenge harmful narratives occurring in their circles, in their workplaces, schools, and communities. I invite you to have tough conversations about what this means for the future of our sisters, our mothers, our daughters, and friends, for our future too. Imagine a world where all genders feel cared about and safe, a world free from violence, a world where we can spend International Women's Day celebrating the triumphs of women rather than discussing the rampant violence that occurs towards them. Please join me in inviting your communities to commit to ending all forms of gender-based violence across the globe. Together, with your allyship, we can make waves of change for a better future. Thank you. Merci. 감사합니다.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Garolo, for this most inspiring speech. Thank you. You know, I was having a coffee yesterday with our speaker, and then we were discussing how in Korea that we put so much emphasis on children's education, that we are spending so much of our money and time for mathematics, for English, and all sorts of different subjects, but how are we not really spending as much energy and time to educate our boys on gender equality? So I think this serves as a wonderful reminder that this is a very, very important agenda that we cannot afford to ignore. So thank you so much, Mr. Garolo, for your most inspiring speech. Now, the final inspiration that I'd like to invite you is related to a very sad fact of life. The sad fact of life is that we will all become ill at some point and we'll all die. And the people that we love will also face illness at some point in their lives, and they will also die. I'm reminding you of these sad realities because our next speaker will be exactly speaking on these issues, the gender inequalities in care for the sick and the elderly. So now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Jang Suk Lang, Dean of the Red Cross College of Nursing at Jungwon University. She's a renowned scholar on this important subject of care for the sick and the elderly. And she previously served as the president of the Korea Society for Primary Healthcare and the Korean Society for Equity in Health. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Jang.
네, 저는 딸아이가 기저귀를 처음 뗀 순간을 기억합니다. 저는 만세를 불렀어요. 그 딸아이가 기특해서라기보다는 제가 더 이상 대소변을 치워주지 않아도 된다라는 해방감에 그랬던 것 같습니다. 그리고 몇 해 전에 아버지에게 처음으로 기저귀를 채워드리던 날 저는 정말 많이 울었습니다. 정말 엄했고 깔끔했던 아버지에 대한 연민 때문인지도 모르겠고요. 또한 극한의 돌봄 노동이 나를 기다리고 있을 거라는 두려움 때문이었는지도 모르겠습니다. 어쨌든 만세를 불렀던 오래전에 제 모습도 좀 떠올리게 됐었습니다. 하지만 기저귀를 가는 일은 저의 몫은 아니었습니다. 암을 앓고 있는 저희 엄마의 몫이었고요. 저는 암을 앓고 있는 엄마를 돌봐야 했고 또 아버지를 돌보는 이중 돌봄을 해야 했었습니다. 이 대소변을 처리하는 거 돌봄의 모습 중에 하나죠. 본인이 하면 당연히 자기가 해야 되는 자기 돌봄이고 또 부모가 하면 기뻐해야 하는 또는 너무나 당연한 육아이고 자녀가 하면 아주 슬픈 돌봄이 됩니다. 그렇지만 사실상은 다 같은 돌봄입니다. 생애 과정 동안 한 번 이상은 당연히 여러분 모두 저를 포함해서 다 필요한 것이 돌봄이죠. 그러나 돌봄의 양과 질은 누구에게나 공평하게 주어지지는 않습니다. 그래서 오늘 저는 평등한 돌봄 사회에 대해서 이야기해 보려고 합니다. 한국의 노인 실태 조사에 따르면 노인의 90% 가까이가 돌봄이 필요할 때 수발을 가족에게 받고 있었습니다. 장기요양제도나 돌봄 서비스가 없는 건 아닙니다. 그렇지만 아무리 갖추어져 있다 하더라도 그런 사회라 하더라도 1차적인 돌봄은 결국은 가장 가까이에 있는 가장 친밀한 가족에서부터 출발을 합니다. 우리는 그걸 잊어서는 안 됩니다. 국가가 책임질 수 있다, 사회가 책임질 수 있다 라고 자신감을 가질 수도 있지만 사실상 그렇지 않습니다. 우리는 비공식 돌봄이라는 명칭으로 이 흥미로운 가족 돌봄에 대해서 바라보고 있는데요. 이 비공식 돌봄 제공자의 성별 분포가 국가마다 상당히 차이가 납니다. 한국 같은 경우는 가족이나 친척 등 비공식 돌봄을 제공하는 사람의 70% 이상이 여성입니다. 남녀 비율이 50%인 나라도 물론 있습니다. 우리나라처럼 한국처럼 가족주의적 문화가 좀 강한 국가들은 여성의 비율이 훨씬 높습니다. 연구하면서 좀 특이한 점을 발견했는데요. 한국 남성은 여기 지금 들으시는 한국 남성들 조금 긴장하시는 것 같은데요. 한국 남성은 돌봄이 필요할 때 배우자에 대한 의존도가 상당히 높았습니다. 배우자를 제외하고는 돌봄을 받을 수 있는 사람을 찾기가 쉽지 않은 것처럼 보였습니다. 다른 나라와 비교했을 때에도 한국 남성들은 돌봄이 필요한 순간이 오면 배우자 의존 비율이 상당히 높게 나타났고 자녀라든지 다른 공식적인 간병을 받는 비율은 많이 낮았습니다. 또는 돌봄을 거의 받지 못하는 모습도 발견됐습니다. 즉 배우자가 있으면 돌봄을 받고 배우자가 없으면 돌봄을 아예 못 받는 그런 상황이 보였습니다. 부인이 아닌 사람에게 돌봄 받는 것을 꺼리는 건지 아니면 가족이나 친척 이웃 중에서 돌봄을 제공할 사람을 찾기가 쉽지 않은 건지 굉장히 궁금했습니다. 저희는 이런 돌봄의 결핍이 왜 발생하는지 여러 측면에서 좀 고민을 해봤습니다. 요양보호사에 의한 재가 방문 서비스와 같은 공적인 돌봄도 여성에 비해 남성이 좀 덜 받는 것으로 보여졌습니다. 남성 노인은 의존성에 대한 부정적인 어떤 감정이 있는 것인지 아니면 다른 이성 돌봄 제공자에게 가족이 아닌 또는 배우자가 아닌 다른 이성 돌봄 제공자에게 의존하는 것을 꺼리는 것일지도 모르겠습니다. 이런 돌봄 현상을 연구하면서 한국 남성의 이런 특징에 흥미를 느낀 것은 남성 노인이 보이는 돌봄에 대한 배우자 의존성을 지적하려는 것이 아닙니다. 사실 이 현상은 사회 구조적인 문제 때문이고요. 이 때문에 남녀 모두에게 돌봄 불평등을 초래하기 때문입니다. 배우자가 없거나 또는 배우자가 있어도 아파서 돌볼 수 없는 그런 상황일 때 남성 노인은 돌봄의 결핍에 빠지게 됩니다. 고스란히 그걸 뒤집어서 생각하면 여성 노인 입장에서는 돌봄을 하는 사람이 됩니다. 그러면 독박 돌봄 부담을 고스란히 여성 노인이 가지게 됩니다. 돌봄을 하는 여성 노인 입장에서 바라보면 가뜩이나 고령으로 본인도 건강이 좋지 않은데 피할 수도 없는 돌봄 노동 때문에 우울감을 호소하게 됩니다. 그들은 자녀 양육과 부모 또는 시부모 수발 그리고 배우자 수발에 손자녀 육아까지 하는 경우가 많습니다. 그렇게 끝없이 이어지는 그들이 이야기하는 내추럴 슬레이버리, 즉 자연 노예와 같은 삶을 버거워합니다. 그러면서도 자녀한테 이 돌봄이 전가될까 봐 전전긍긍하십니다. 아까 이제 김예원 변호사께서 40년 전 말씀을 하셨는데요. 저는 한국의 600년 전 얘기를 한번 해볼까 합니다. 600년 전에 있었던 실제 이야기인데요. 그 당시에는 한국에는 고려장이라는 것이 있었습니다. 나이 든 어머니를 아들이 업고 집 뒤에 뒷산으로 올라갑니다. 그리고 그곳에 어머니를 내려놓고 아들 혼자 내려옵니다. 어머니는 그 산에서 나머지 생을 맞이합니다. 생의 말기, 임종까지 그 산에서 홀로 맞게 됩니다. 이렇게 했던 이유가 있습니다. 너무 어려운 삶, 가난, 그런 것 때문에 부모를 봉양할 수가 없기 때문이고 어머니도 그것을 동의했습니다. 왜냐하면 나의 경제적인 의존은 아들에게 모든 걸 의존해야 됐기 때문이죠. 그런데 막상 올라간 어머니가 주변을 돌아보니까 거기에 이미 산에 올라온 다른 어르신들도 노인들도 있었습니다. 그런데 그 사람들에 비해서 본인이 너무 젊은 거예요. 너무 젊은 나이에 아직 건강한데 아들 등에 업혀서 이 산에 올라와 있었습니다. 그 어머니는 주변에 돌을 들고 자기 이빨을 깨기 시작합니다. 그렇게 했던 이유는 더 늙어 보이기 위해서, 그렇게 늙어 보이고 싶었던 이유는 내 아들이 욕을 먹을까 봐. 내 아들이 너무 이른 나이에 나를 뒷산에 이렇게 버려둔 것을 이웃들이 알게 될까 봐. 그게 두려워서 그런 행동을 하게 됩니다. 이게 600년 전의 이야기이긴 하지만 이게 사실상은 이 문화가 현재에도 이어집니다. 왜냐하면 현재 한국 여성 노인들은 2중, 3중의 돌봄 노동을 감당하고 있기 때문입니다. 이런 2중 돌봄은 한 명의 돌봄 대상을 돌보는 게 아니라 여러 대상을 동시에 돌보거나 아니면 연속적으로 돌보게 되는 것을 의미합니다. 아픈 사람을 간병하고 육아에 가사일에 각종 보건복지 서비스를 신청하고 서류 작성하고 관리하고 정신적인 지원과 자기 돌봄까지 일의 종류도 스펙트럼도 굉장히 다양합니다. 이런 2중, 3중의 돌봄은 사실 여성 노인에게만 있는 것은 아니고요. 20대부터 3, 4, 50대 중고령자에 이르기까지 다양한 연령대에서 나타나고 있습니다. 한국 사회에서의 여성은 과도한 돌봄 책임으로부터 벗어나기 어려운 구조적인 부정의가 있습니다. 이제 곧 5월이 될 텐데요. 5월이 되면 가정의 달이라고 합니다. 효부상을 시상하는 기관이나 또는 지역이 가끔 있더라고요. 언론 보도자료를 보면 시부모님의 남편의 장애를 가진 시동생까지 2중, 3중 돌봄을 하는 여성이 상을 받는 모습이 나옵니다. 저는 가슴이 좀 쓰렸습니다. 효심 높은 며느리라는 의미의 이런 상장은 사실 도움이 별로 되지 않을 것 같습니다. 우리 사회가 효부상을 주면서 그것을 인정해 주기보다는 그런 상황을 쉽게 용인하지 않았으면 좋겠습니다. 그런 이중의 돌봄 부담을 갖지 않도록 예방했으면 좋겠습니다. 더 적극적이고 강력한 정책 지원으로 그녀의 부담을 낮추어주고 싶었습니다. 저희 연구팀의 연구 결과에 의하면 돌봄이 필요할 때 가족 중에 여성에게 더 많이 의존하는 국가일수록 돌봄을 제공하는 여성의 우울증 유병률이 더 높은 것을 발견했습니다. 이런 국제 비교 연구에서 결과를 통해서 볼 때 연령과 무관하게 여성의 우울증이 높고 여성이 돌봄 노동에 훨씬 더 많이 종사하는 국가일수록 여성의 사회 참여도도 낮았습니다. 여성에게 이런 비공식 돌봄 역할을 부과하는 것을 당연하게 여기고 또 자연스럽다고 생각하는 국가들은 긴장하고 고민해야 될 것 같습니다. 돌봄 정책을 다시 짜야 합니다. 사회 모든 영역에서 여성의 사회 참여를 저해하고 있을 가능성이 있기 때문에 젠더 렌즈로 사회를 다시 들여다봐야만 합니다. 이런 문화적인, 제도적인 시스템은 여성뿐만 아니라 남성에게도 좋지 않은 결과를 가져옵니다. 남성에게는 돌봐줄 사람이 없는 돌봄의 결핍을 피할 수 없을 것이며 여성들에게는 돌봄 부담 때문에 우울한 삶을 피할 수가 없게 됩니다. 여성의 우울은 남성의 우울이고 남성의 비극은 여성의 비극이기도 합니다. 지금까지는 이제 비공식 돌봄에 대해서 좀 말씀드렸는데요. 지금부터는 공적 돌봄에 대해서 말씀드리고자 합니다. 이런 비공식 돌봄과 공적 돌봄은 서로 책임과 부담을 나누어야 할 텐데요. 저는 간호대 교수입니다. 저의 제자들은 대부분 병원이나 요양시설이나 보건소 등 의료 돌봄의 현장에서 간호사로 근무를 하고 있습니다. 돌봄이 누락된 의료 현장에서 간호사들은 고분분투하고 있는데요. 너무 많은 환자를 배치하고 있어서 과도한 업무에 시달리는 간호사들은 종종 돌보기를 포기하고 일을 그만둡니다. 1년 이내에 이직률이 44% 이상 됩니다. 그러다 보니까 병원은 간호사가 부족합니다. 그래서 매년 많이 뽑습니다. 뽑기만 하고 처우는 안 좋으니까 간호사들은 또 그만두고 처우가 조금이라도 더 좋은 병원을 찾아 헤맵니다. 이렇게 간호사들을 많이 뽑고 쓰고 버리니까 간호사들은 스스로를 티슈 노동자라고 부릅니다. 네, 앞에 티슈가 없네요. 이렇게 티슈 뽑아 버리는 거죠. 거동 불편한 노인을 위해 일상생활을 지원하는 요양보호사, 케어기버들이죠. 요양보호사는 본인들을 장롱신세라고 부릅니다. 자격증을 보유한 사람은 250만 명이 넘었는데 사실 요양보호사로 일하는 사람은 20%에 불과합니다. 자격증이 대부분 어디에 있냐면 장롱 속에 있습니다. 그래서 그들을 장롱신세라고 말합니다. 이렇게 된 이유는 고용 형태가 불안정하고 직업에 대한 편견이 있고 열악한 노동 환경에 부적절한 임금, 불명확한 업무, 과중한 업무량 때문입니다. 이런 총체적인 문제로 요양보호사 일을 하고 싶어 하지 않습니다. 이직률이 높으니까 현장에서는 구인난에 시달리고 있습니다. 그런데 더 심각한 노동자들도 있습니다. 바로 간병인인데요. 우리 사회에 몇 명이나 일하고 있는지 정확한 통계도 없고 인력 관리가 안 될 뿐만 아니라 채용 기준이나 직업 훈련도 없고요. 대다수가 외국인으로 구성되어 있어서 현재 노동 조건으로만 따지면 아마 외국인 근로자에게 돌봄 노동을 착취하는 구조라고 말할 수 있겠습니다. 이렇게 간호사, 요양보호사, 간병인 등 이런 대표적인 공적 돌봄 노동자의 80%가 여성입니다. 이것은 돌봄 노동을 여성의 자연적인 역할로 간주하면서 경제적 가치를 충분히 인정하지 않는 사회 구조와 문화적 기대 때문에 편향된 현상입니다. 이제 돌봄 노동의 가치는 재평가되어야 합니다. 돌봄은 사회 전체가 책임져야 할 필수 노동입니다. 돌봄 노동자들에게 정당한 임금과 근로 조건을 보장해야 되며 공공 돌봄 서비스 확대를 통해서 노동의 안정성을 높여야 합니다. 젠더 중립적인 돌봄 문화 정착을 통해 돌봄 노동이 여성의 역할만이 아니라는 인식을 해야 합니다. 돌봄 노동자의 권리 강화를 통해서 성별에 관계없이 공정하게 돌봄 노동이 분배될 수 있도록 정책적 지원이 필요합니다. 성별에 관계없이 또는 청년도, 중년도, 고령도, 연령에 상관없이 모두 돌봄에 임할 수 있어야 지속 가능한 돌봄 체계를 만들어갈 수 있습니다. 돌봄은 우리 사회를 지탱하는 필수적인 덕목입니다. 하지만 이것이 여성에게만 과중하게 부담되고 정당한 평가를 받지 못한다면 우리는 초고령 사회를 살아갈 수 없습니다. 또한 매년 문제가 되고 있는 간병지옥, 간병살인, 간병자살의 발생을 막아내지도 못할 것입니다. 돌봄의 가치를 인정하고 돌봄 노동자들이 존중받는 사회를 만들기 위해서 모두가 함께 고민하고 실천해야 할 때라고 생각합니다. 감사합니다.
Thank you so much, Dr. Zhang, for this most inspiring speech. It truly enlightened us to think about the issues that are not just personal within our families, but they are really national and global in nature, and gave us very critical insights to think through these issues. So thank you very much. Now, last but not least, I'm going to invite Dr. Vu Fong Lee, who is the officer in charge of the UN Women Knowledge and Partnership Center here in Seoul. She's been with the UN Women for 16 years and is currently leading the center's efforts on training programs for the Asia-Pacific region. She will deliver the closing speech.
Thank you, Ajahn. So, Excellency, distinguished guests and partner, on behalf of the UN Women's Center of Knowledge and Partnership Center in the Republic of Korea, I sincerely thank you for taking your valuable time to commemorate International Women's Day with us today. This marks the third year that our UN Women's Center has organized the International Women's Day commemoration in the Republic of Korea since its opening in 2022. I'm pleased to see that this annual celebration evolving into a meaningful occasion for us to come together, reflect on women's achievement, and advocate for positive change to advance gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls. 30 years after the adoption of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action, complex challenges stand in the way of gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls. Women and girls are demanding change, and they deserve nothing less. We have already heard inspiring speech And with the wonderful land ahead, I will keep my closing remark in brief. So on the screen, you are seeing some of the photos from our brand new report. Yes. Called Girl Goal, What Are Change for Girls? Adolescent Right. So the report is Girl Goal, What Has Changed for Girls? Adolescent Girls' Rights Over 30 Years, which UN Women just launched last Friday together with UNICEF and Plan International. I wanted to end our commemoration looking at the face of these girls, representing our future and hopes. I'm a mother of 2 girls myself, and they are the source of inspiration and energy for my work at UN Women. I'm sure many of you can think of your daughters, nieces, cousins, and granddaughters. You see, what we have shared over the past 2 hours is not just abstract theory. It is about creating a better future for the girl in your life whom you love and care for. Equally important, it is about shaping a better future for the boys who will grow up to share their life with them. So let us remember this faith and reaffirm to one another that gender equality is not just a right path, it is the only path to a just, prosperous, and sustainable future for all. Let us keep moving forward steadily and with unwavering determination on this journey. Thanks for standing with us at UN Women. Before I close, I would like to sincerely thank to our wonderful speaker for their insight contribution and lifelong service to women and girls. I also want to acknowledge the generous support from the Ministry of Gender Equality and Family for UN Women and for our center in Republic of Korea. Last but not least, I would like to express my gratitude to my delegate team, especially Ajang Lee, who hard work have made this annual celebration possible. I hope to see you again in this next event of UN Women. Thank you very much. 감사합니다.
Thank you so much, Lee, for your remarks. Really heart to look at the faces, so thank you so much. Now, this concludes our 2025 International Women's Day celebration. I know some of you have been here for two times or even 3 times. How many of you would like to come again next year if you are invited? So please do come again next year. We'd love to have you again. And thank you so much for spending your day with us to celebrate, to commemorate, to think through, and to strategize together of what to do for gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls. Now, I don't want to stand in the way between you and the lunch. The lunch is served in the hall in a buffet style, so please help yourself. Halal as well as vegetarian dishes are all provided, so please kind of help yourself. If you need the car parking registration, the staff of the Lotte Hotel will also help you. And your interpretation devices, please leave them on the tables, and please do not take them to your homes. I've seen that before. So once again, thank you so much. Enjoy your lunch, and we look forward to seeing you again next year. Thank you.